first a coffee. Hey guys, welcome to this video. I'm in southwest Portugal. I've been living in the Algarve for about 7 months now. And in this video, I'm gonna let you guys know what life is like here. So let's get right into it. What does it feel like to live here? In the West Algarve, in wintertime, the time I spent here, life feels generally very spacious, very soothing. There is an honesty about the landscape and nature. Mother Nature is expressing in a very raw, authentic, unfiltered way the powerful ocean that molds the rocky coastlines. Loads of space, silent nights, beautiful starlit night skies. I feel generally very grounded when I'm here. There's a different pace to life than in big career-oriented cities like Berlin. It feels very welcoming, not just the people, but also the land itself. That's my take on what life feels like in the Algarve in wintertime. What does life feel like for you in your country? I'm genuinely interested. And really try to paint a picture with words here. Try to really describe the feeling. Drop it in the comments. How's the rhythm of life compared to big city life? Well, the surf culture alone, not to mention surfing itself, definitely shifts journeying through life to a lower gear. The space allows for the soul to breathe. The only sounds you'll hear at night are nature sounds. Wind, rain, animals. I don't even mind barking dogs in the distance because it's just such a genuine, intuitive expression of life itself. Whereas in big cities, the constant traffic noise, partying crowds in front of my doorstep in Berlin just really annoy the hell out of me, or in turn actually mask the noise of the mind that's been accumulated due to stress and constant light and noise pollution in the city. It's a bit of a vicious circle. I used to feel like I almost needed the noise in Berlin to feel calm inside. So coming here, at first, the silence seemed kind of challenging because it gave the mind so much room for its noise. A bit too much to be comfortable, but over time, with awareness and fully allowing myself to feel all those emotions connected to these thoughts, things got a lot better. And now I feel quite grounded and a lot more connected to life itself, to my true self. Is it affordable? What do things cost? Well, gentrification has definitely arrived here as well in the Algarve, like most places in Europe. The neighboring county in the north, Alentejo, seems to be a lot more reasonable still. I'm paying €800 per month for a brand new modern log cabin on a beautiful, spacious property. Groceries, it depends where you go. Supermarkets like Lidl and Aldi are relatively cheap still, but there are also local supermarket chains that are totally overpriced and unaffordable. Some of the items there are literally insanely expensive. I don't even know how people here make a living. With an average net income of about €1,000 after tax, how do people actually survive? Like waitresses and waiters earn between €7 and €8 an hour, including tip. An espresso is about €1. That's pretty good. A galao, like a Portugal version of a cappuccino in a glass with oat milk. If you're vegan, it's about €3. Eating out is about as expensive as most Central European countries. During the time I've spent here, a liter of diesel ranged between €1.45 and €1.70. In your opinion, which country offers the best value for money? Let me know in the comments. Is there a real spiritual conscious scene? Well, after having spent a solid amount of time in India, I have mixed feelings about the spiritual community of Portugal. I guess we are comparing India's deep-rooted, ancient, sacred teachings that explore the nature of reality that have been misinterpreted and misunderstood by many people, turning them into more of a monotheistic religion based around worship, with the West's interpretation and adaptation of those teachings. The result is more of a playful, interactive exploration of oneself and others. More movement, more feeling what's alive in the body, more showing yourself vulnerable in front of community. Whereas for many Westerners, meditation almost doesn't seem to be fun enough anymore. I see the benefits in both, the traditional Dharma as well as the West's neo-spirituality. with all its modernized modalities like breathwork, ecstatic dance, cacao ceremonies, plant medicine, etc. As long as the path leads to truly exploring yourself, I think it's legit. You want to shine the light of consciousness onto life. And I've come more and more to terms with allowing myself to truly enjoy the human experience with all its ups and downs, lights and shadows. In the end, we are here to explore ourselves. That doesn't mean mindlessly following every desire, but rather fully diving into life with awareness. Let's talk about the weather. In the sun, it's always summer. Between November and March, it only rained like 4 days. That's really unusual for this time of year. Now it's May. It's been raining cats and dogs. Got pretty windy. Today's a beautiful day again. The coldest night I can remember was in January, maybe 2 degrees at night. Normally it ranges between 7 and 12, I'd say. That's Celsius. And at daytime, in the shade, always between 14 when it's cold and around 20 when it's warmer. But in the sun, it's always summer. The water temperature of the ocean is pretty damn cold, even in summertime. If you're used to the Mediterranean or the Canary Islands, it's definitely a whole other level of cold. I've been surfing here for the entire time I've been here, and I'm always wearing a 4-3 wetsuit, which is rather comfortable. I've been swimming sometimes without a wetsuit, and it's always a bit of a challenge, even on the south coast where the water generally seems a bit warmer than on the west coast. What's the landscape like? There's a lot of space here, like I said. Due to the rain, now everything is nice and lush and green. Flowers are sprouting everywhere now in May. The coastline is just incredible. There are beaches that stretch on forever. You can walk for miles, not meeting a single human in wintertime. There's quite a lot of hills in the area, especially between the coastline and more inland. And it feels like the more north you go, the less dense the population gets, at least in Alentejo. Of course, when you go further north to Lisbon, it's different. What does the ocean give you emotionally and energetically? That's a big one. To me as a surfer, everything. It's just the most beautiful playground. I've been reflecting for some time why this sport is so addictive. And I guess apart from the dopamine you get by just gliding gracefully and beautifully and fastly on a transparent, beautiful surface, looking at the most stunning landscape, I think there's also a gambling aspect to it. You never know what you get. And if things line up perfectly, there's nothing better. Literally. The ocean feels like family to me, like my best friend. Like when everybody and everything else turns away, it's home. It has a certain honesty about it. It's raw. Some days it's outright violent. Other days it's beautiful, soothing, and dreamy. What's your relationship with the ocean? What's it make you feel? Let me know in the comments. How are the locals? How are the people? My impression of the Portuguese people is a very positive one. I've only had friendly encounters. People have been very helpful. I've even been greeted by strangers, by construction workers on the road, just smiling at me with an open heart. Something that's hard to imagine happening in Germany, where I'm from. But really, to know locals, it's inevitable to know the language. It will not just make you pragmatically understand words and contexts, but it will show you how people navigate through life, how they feel. A language contains so much more than words. The way people use it lets you know a lot about them. I was honestly a bit too lazy to learn Portuguese. I don't really understand why people are upset about that. Locals in general, that foreigners choose not to do that, because you can only learn so many things in a certain amount of time. Me coming from Berlin, I'm constantly surrounded by so many different languages that are in German, and I actually enjoy it because it makes me feel like I'm traveling myself. So if you want to be offended by that, that's your own decision. In the end, I guess it's my own loss not to learn Portuguese, because like I said, knowing a language is knowing people. Generally speaking, I'd say that chances are that a human being who grows up in the southwest of Portugal will probably end up less neurotic than a person growing up in a city like Berlin. What's the deal with expats and nomads? Okay. There are so many Germans here, it's actually insane. It feels like every second camper van has a German license plate. You know, when having left Germany to find some anonymity, I often feel like all that German around me is really penetrating my privacy. Also, it feels like about 75% of surfers at intermediate spots are German. And it also feels like they're doing it because it represents a certain lifestyle, rather than really being connected to the element. But I might be projecting here. Aren't we always? There are also many British, Dutch and French people here. I guess I wasn't the only one who had the genius plan of escaping a central or northern European winter. I would say the average winter tourist is more chill than the average beach holiday, mainstream, all-inclusive summer tourist. Especially the places I go, I see people who serve rather than people who spend their time in Irish pubs, stuffing their faces with French fries and fish and chips. How's the food? What about vegan food, organic options? I'd say traditionally Portuguese cuisine is probably relatively meat and fish heavy, but especially down here in the Algarve, it's pretty easy to come by vegan, gluten-free and organic food options when eating out. Even in the countryside, there are places that have vegan pizza with vegan cheese. In the supermarkets, that's a bit of a different story. There are vegan options, but organic food is not so easy to find. But there are local vegetable markets and a few organic stores in bigger cities. For me, as a plant-based person, my go-to when in doubt is an Indian restaurant. And luckily for me, there are plenty of good Indian restaurants around. What's your go-to when in doubt? Let me know in the comments. Does this place feed my creativity? Well, Mother Nature is still my most accessible muse. Just staring at the sky or the ocean, receiving the expression of the universe works best for me. I brought my entire recording studio from home with me, set it up in my house here. I can be as loud as I want, as late as I want, and I have the privacy to express everything I need to. I feel pretty blessed. What's changed since I've been here? I've been here since 7 months now. And I've created my new music project, The Traveler, pretty much from scratch, speaking of scratching. And I've released 5 singles. The next one is coming out tomorrow, this Friday. I've created a website. I've really slowed down and became very creative and rooted and centered and connected to life again. I did also shoot 2 music videos. I have a better overview of what I want to experience in life. Portugal isn't the best at anything, but it is pretty damn good at everything. But at this point in life, feels like I'm making my peace with the idea of keeping on flowing from dream to dream, spending half a year playing shows in Central Europe and recharging, recalibrating, reconnecting during the winter season, somewhere beautiful, somewhere warm, somewhere new. That's my path for now. I hope my perspective inspired your idea of Portugal, and I want to thank you all for listening. If you liked this video, if it resonated, please subscribe to the channel or give me a like and a comment. I'm genuinely interested in an open dialogue. I'd love to know your perspective, your thoughts. And I want to thank you so much for your support. I'll be doing these traveler talks regularly from now on, and I can't wait to touch on the next topic, the next country, the next place. I love traveling. I love doing this. It's a lot of work, but I feel it's worthwhile, especially if we talk to one another. Thank you all so much. Much love. Talk soon.